in our response to challenges around us.
Next one is admit failure.
Okay, eventually, no matter how hard you try, the experience just happen. Sometimes they are not something that you can handle. Maybe a natural disaster happens and swept all your investment away. Maybe you are careful, you did all that you could do, but the center will not just hold. So at that point, you will have to admit failure. I see several of us struggle with this phase. The experience of Adam shows that he failed at this point. God confronted him. Adam, why did you eat the fruit I asked you not to eat? And the first thing is to deny instead of admitting failure. Okay, and I've discovered that at this point, several of us go into denial instead of admitting that we have failed. Okay, and like I said, everybody has gone through one form of failure or another. So what you are going through is not probably peculiar to you. So you will need to everybody that had another chance in God admitted their failure. Ruth left Bethlehem for the land of Moabite with her husband Elkanah. She lost her husband, she lost her 2 sons, and she came back empty. When she came back to Bethlehem, people started calling her Naomi. I was saying, don't call me Naomi. I left full, I came back empty. My life is bitter now. So Naomi admitted her failure. The prodigal son, well, it was a parable, but it's still instructive. Took his father's property while the father was alive and went and spent the whole thing in riotous living. In Luke 15:18 and 19 said, I will arise and go to my father, and I will tell him, I'm not supposed to be your son again because I've wasted my inheritance. He admitted his failure. David, after his affair with Bathsheba, 2 Samuel chapter 12 and verse 18, when Nathan confronted him with that sin, David admitted. Okay, so instead of admitting our failures, several of us are blaming somebody else. We are blaming our father for not sending us to school. We are blaming our parents. We are blaming our wife the way Adam blamed Eve. We are blaming the government. We are looking for somebody to blame even for our own fault. So the second thing is to admit failure, especially when it is obvious that you are responsible for that failure. Well, even if you think you are not responsible, you still have to admit that you fail. Because unless you admit that you fail, you won't be able to take any other step to correct that experience. That's the second thing in turning around failure.
Next one is forgive failure.
Okay, so you'll have to forgive failure. You have to forgive yourself if you think the experience is caused by your own carelessness or by your own not paying attention to details, by not listening to warning or to wisdom. You have to forgive failure. If you think somebody else is responsible for your failure, you still have to forgive failure. You still have to forgive your father. If you think your father didn't send you to school, you still have to forgive your wife. You still have to forgive your husband. You still have to forgive your doctor. If you think your doctor mismanaged your pregnancy, you still have to forgive your lecturer. Because you see, if you are not well, some people feel that God is responsible for their failure and you still have to forgive God. Because if you don't, that means you are struggling with bitterness, and bitterness is something that will not allow you to move forward physically and spiritually. Okay, so you have to forgive the fact that you failed. You have to forgive the fact that you didn't do well. You have to forgive others that you think are responsible for your failure so that you can move on. If you don't forgive yourself, you won't find healing for that experience, and that it's going to be difficult for you to find a way out of that challenges if you don't forgive yourself.
Next one is celebrate failure. Okay,
that's hard because usually we don't celebrate failure. What we celebrate is success. Well, when I say celebrate failure, I'm not saying that you roll out drums and begin to dance around because you fail. That's what I mean. I'm saying even in the failed experience, you must look for something to thank God for. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 and verse 18 says we must give thanks in all circumstances because that is the will of God for us in Christ Jesus. Yes, you may have failed, but you are still alive to tell your story. You still have the possibility of correcting the mistake. You still have the possibility of second chance. So you will, instead of sliding into depression, you will have to see something that you need to thank God for. Philippians chapter 4 verse 6 and 7, do not be anxious about anything but with prayer and petition with thanksgiving. David, in the aftermath of our affair with Bathsheba gave birth to a baby boy and the baby became sick to the point of death. And so David started praying and fasting for the healing of that baby. Eventually the baby died. And David, that has not eaten anything for days, said, please give me something to eat. He took his bath and people are wondering, Oga, when this baby was healed, you were fasting and praying, you were rolling on the floor. Now he's dead, you are eating. And we can't match that experience. Will I kill myself? The baby is gone. He can't come back to me. I'm the only one who's going to go back to him. I have to believe God for something else. So you can believe God that in everything that you are going. In fact, what you call failure actually might be an exit door to success. Okay? So you will have to find something to thank God for. That's what I mean by you must celebrate your failure. Okay. Thomas Edison, the man who discovered and invented bulbs, lost his own laboratory at the age of 67. And while facing the ruins of the burnt laboratory with his son, he just looked at his son and smiled. Said, "We can thank God that we are still alive. We can begin afresh again. This time more wisely." That's celebrating failure. Okay, so the failure may be devastating, but the point is that in the midst of all of those things, there's something to thank God for. Job lost everything, and the Bible said he didn't blame God for anything. He only bowed down and worship. That's celebrating failure. And all of us can have the grace to do that in the midst of what we are going through now.
Evaluate failure.
Okay.